One. Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chelsea.
Today, we're going to be discussing week 10 of the NFL season. It was a real interesting week with a couple of really interesting games. So let's start off by talking about the Panthers versus the Chiefs game. Now, as I said in last week's podcast, I am a pretty hardcore Panthers fan. And I got to say, Christian McCaffrey, his comeback this game, he played incredible. The team in general, I thought, played pretty well. And honestly, if you look at it, I mean, we were going into Kansas City playing the defending Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, that monster of an offense. But their defense, something I thought was interesting was they were talking about it on the radio that their run defense for the Chiefs was 29th in the league. And I was thinking, I was honestly thinking, I'm like, okay, with Christian McCaffrey and Mike Davis in the backfield, I was thinking, okay, this could potentially be a huge thing for us. And it turned out it was. We ran the ball pretty well, and we were passing really well too. Teddy Bridgewater.
Shout out to Teddy B.
Oh yeah, he played a heck of a game. That 4th and 14 conversion.
Oh
dang.
Yeah, him leaping. That was pretty impressive for a guy that had reconstructive surgery and was out for a season. That's a bold move.
Oh yeah, bold move, definitely. And I think he said he knew he wasn't going to get the first down if he didn't do something, if he just went down. So he just went for the jump.
He went for it. Mad respect.
Yeah, props to him. So I don't know, Chelsea, do you have any thoughts on the game, or I don't know if you saw it? Or
I mean, the Panthers are my second favorite team. My favorite team is, everyone knows my favorite team is the Colts, but not going to lie, I thought the Panthers were going to get blown out in this game. And the fact that they didn't with the roster that they have, I think speaks to the resiliency and the coaching, especially for Matt Rule. Because let's be honest, the Panthers don't have the most impressive squad. They don't have the most impressive roster, especially on defense. On offense, with McCaffrey back, you got Teddy B. He's serviceable. He's not going to win you a championship, but, he's serviceable. Christian McCaffrey, who's arguably the best running back in the league. Players like Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, like those guys, like that offense is legit. The O-line's a little suspect. As a Colts fan, trust me, I know what it's like to have a suspect O-line for my whole life. It's fine. And the tight end could use a bit of a better player there. But I mean, looking at running backs, quarterbacks, and receivers, I mean, their offense can be intimidating if they play well. It's just their defense, the secondary is like rough. And the D-line is, rough. But the Chiefs, they dropped over 30 points. So it's not like you can give the defense a whole lot of credit. But normally the Chiefs drop like 60. So, I mean, you can give them a little bit of credit. I think most of the credit for this game goes to the offense, though, especially with McCaffrey back. You can see how big of a difference he makes. I mean, Mike Davis, he was a serviceable back for, the weeks that McCaffrey was out. I think everyone expected him to not be good and the Panthers to be one-dimensional, but they weren't. Mike Davis, he was, good enough. And, I think they won some games with him. Didn't they win at least one game with Mike Davis as the starter at running back?
Yeah,
Pretty sure they did.
They've won all 3 of their games have been with Mike Davis at starting running back. All 3 of their wins.
They won it. They won at least one. So, I mean, he's fine. He's impressive. He's definitely a good backup. And, he filled in for McCaffrey just fine. So I think, again, like I said, I think most of the credit for this game goes to the offense. But, I mean, it was impressive. McCaffrey and Teddy Bridgewater, threw some impressive balls and made that 4th and 14. And, they almost came out with the victory. So, I mean, Panthers can do that now with the roster they have. Imagine what they'll be able to do when their defense is actually good. And they have a good tight end and they have a good O-line. Like once they get all those pieces, like the Panthers will be an intimidating team and, playoff caliber. So it'll be interesting to see how Matt Rule and the general manager go about building that.
Yeah, I agree. I think something that was really impressive was, so if you kind of look at the Panthers season this far, they have not been blown out in a single game. There's not.
That's true.
And I think what's impressive to me is the fact that they lost about 60% of their roster and complete change. Now, was that...
Rest in peace.
Was that...
Luke Kuechly.
Yeah,
Rest in peace.
We definitely... I think where you see that we miss Kuechly was good at covering tight ends, and Travis Kelce had a day with us.
He was good at everything, but especially that.
Yeah, and so I think something that was interesting though on the bright side for the Panthers defense is that they have some good young pieces like Jeremy Chin and Brian Burns and this guy named uh, I had no idea who he was, but Sam Franklin, undrafted safety, came in and balled out. He played
Yeah, I
really
mean,
well.
when Yatur Grossmatos gets healthy too, he'll make an impact. So once you
Hmm.
guys get him and you get Burns back, those are two of your foundational pieces for the D line. So you really only have half the way to go. And then yeah, that Sam Franklin guy, I don't know where he came from, but I mean, he showed up. So
Yeah, I mean, you got to give him props. He played, this is probably the best or one of the best offenses in football this year and last year and the year before.
I'd
So,
argue the best all the years.
and I think what's interesting about it is that, yeah, the Panthers were able to keep up. They didn't come in there, lie down, and die. I think to some extent there was maybe a little bit of a trap game for the Chiefs
I
to some
agree.
extent, and so maybe they weren't as motivated to play the Panthers as they would be a division rival or a big time team. That I don't know, but I think overall, even though the Panthers have lost, and I still think it was an impressive performance. I do think a place where they struggled through this year. I personally like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a solid quarterback. You are right. I don't know if he can lead us to a Super Bowl, but I think something that he does a good job of. He's a good quarterback and he can get the game won. But the problem is in the fourth quarter, the Panthers aren't the best. They've lost a lot of games on the last drive. They lost on to the Bears by an interception by Teddy. They lost to the Falcons on Thursday Night Football to an interception by Teddy Bridgewater. They lost to the Saints on another last second drive where they had to take a 65-yard field goal because Teddy took a sack. And then in this game, if you look at the final drive, the clock management on the final drive was rough.
It
Um,
seems like the common factor of those three losses that you described was Teddy Bridgewater. So imagine if you had a quarterback who didn't do those things. I'm just
I
saying.
I
Like, I think
think
he's
so.
fine. Like, he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback. But I'm just saying, I don't think that he's the most clutch. He's not a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady. Maybe Tom Brady of this week. I mean, goodness gracious, that was rough. But, I just didn't see him as the most clutch guy. And, those games are going to come down to the end. And it's ultimately going to be on the quarterback to win those games. And the fact that he threw two interceptions and took a sack, I think he's still growing. I think that you guys could do better, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a fair opinion. I think to an extent, it's a it's a new offense now at this point
With
in
an
the
ex
season.
college coach
Yeah, and
and an
there's
ex
just
college offensive coordinator.
exactly. I think a change that you could see coming in the future is the Panthers defensive coordinator. I could just see a potential change in that. I don't know who it'll be. Some fans want Luke Kuechly as defensive coordinator. I think that'd be
Oh my
interesting.
gosh, that would be great.
um, he certainly was good at coordinating the defense on the field. So he
Who
was the
says he can't
quarterback
do
of
it off the field?
yeah, who knows? But I think overall it was an impressive performance. I think the Chiefs though, they're the better team overall. They're better coached, better put together, and they came out on top, and props to them. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. Chelsea, I know you were talking about Josh Allen versus Russell Wilson this week. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Oh man. I don't think, I mean, our game picks last week, we both picked the Seahawks
We did.
and we were both wrong. And I think a lot of the NFL was shocked when they saw the outcome of this game. And I mean, ultimately the deciding factor is the quarterback. So Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. Let's be honest, Wilson had an off day stats wise. He was 28 of 41 for 390 yards, but you see that and you're like, that's not an off day. That's better than 75% of the quarterbacks in this league. Had two touchdowns, you're doing good. But he threw two picks and he fumbled twice, which is
Mm-hmm.
so anti Russell Wilson. He does not turn the ball over a lot. He doesn't get intercepted that much, and he definitely does not fumble. So seeing that was shocking for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, credit to Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White for getting the interceptions, and for AJ Klein and Tre'Davious White for the fumbles. I mean, Tre'Davious White went off. He had a game. He's arguably one of the best secondary players in the NFL, if not the best. He's really impressive, and I think that that showed against an incredibly talented offense. I mean, you got Russ, you got Chris Carson, who he was out, so that definitely contributed to their loss, I think. I mean, you got DK Metcalf, Mr. 4-4, who can catch anyone on the field, apparently. I mean, you got some
Yeah.
of their other good wide receivers. I mean, they have a decent tight end. So, I mean, they have a pretty high powered offense. I wouldn't say it's as high powered as the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Chiefs are the cream of the crop. And if anyone ever gets an offense better than them, something is just going wrong. They're like trying to build a superstar team like in the NBA, but in the NFL. But I mean, Carson was out. He had no running game help at all. I think they had less than 50 yards rushing the whole game. So obviously that contributed to Russell forcing the ball in places he shouldn't have and, fumbling. He probably tried to do too much with his legs. I didn't watch the game, but I looked at the stats and I mean, him fumbling, that's crazy. Like he just does not do that. And I mean, those things definitely contributed to the Bills winning. And
Mhm.
then Allen on the other side, I mean, he was 31 of 38 for 415 yards and 3 touchdowns. For a guy who looks like he was going to be a bust last year, I think he's proving that he's definitely not. He's arguably a top 10 quarterback in the league. And I mean, the Bills are legit. They are not to be pushed over, they're not to be ignored. They're legit. They went in and beat the Seahawks. And it was at Seattle, wasn't it? It wasn't at Buffalo. Was it
I
at Seattle?
I think the game was. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, does any home game really matter with COVID
I
now?
mean, regardless, they still went in and beat one of the best offenses in the league with their own offense. I mean, I think we all know by this point that the Seahawks defense has some things to be desired.
Mhm.
It's not the best defense. I mean, they went out and got Jamal Adams, and that definitely helped. But I think that their defense is not the best, but their offense is one of the best, and they just got outshined by Josh Allen. I mean, he threw touchdowns to wide receivers Gabriel Davis and Isaiah McKenzie, and he threw a touchdown to Tyler Croft. Shout out to Tyler Croft. He was stuck on the Bengals for who knows how many years, and now he's actually on a team that has a shot to make a deep run into the playoffs. So shout out to him for getting off of the Bengals. Sorry, Joe Burrow. But I mean, it was a good game. It was impressive. And, I was shocked that the Bills went in and won. Not going to lie. I mean, like I said, they're a legit team. But I mean, I thought the Seahawks were arguably a top 2 team in the NFC, and they went in and beat them. And, the Bills aren't the Ravens. They're not the Chiefs. They're not the Steelers. Arguably, they're the, fourth best team in the AFC, and they went in and beat arguably a top 2 team in the NFC. So I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, credit to Josh Allen. He really went off and showed what he had. And, I think that contributed a lot. And he didn't really have a run game either. I mean, they had less than 50 or 60 yards rushing too. So, I mean, he really carried the team, him and the defense. They just carried. So, I mean, shout out to the Bills for having a great game.
Yeah, I mean, you put up 44 on any team, you're having a good day, it seems like. So,
That's true. That's true.
the game was at Buffalo, but
I
still, I
mean,
think
even still, they don't have fans, I don't think. And even if they do, doesn't really make much of a difference because of COVID.
it's
That's
cold
still
up there.
impressive, though. I mean, that's crazy. Even winning at home against the Seahawks, that's a wild win. They're probably ecstatic.
I think the Bills are out to prove that they are a legit team, and they want to
Especially
show
Josh
that.
Allen. He
Oh,
took
Josh
so
Allen,
much crap
definitely.
last year, took
Mhm.
so much crap at the beginning of this year.
I
So
mean,
he's out to prove what he is, and I don't think it can really be argued that he's a bust anymore because he just beat Russell Wilson, who's an MVP candidate. So
mhm. Honestly, with Josh Allen, I never really considered him a bust. I think he just would make these baffling decisions at times,
like
and
mediocre at best.
like let's take for instance last year when he was playing in the playoffs against Houston in Houston. They went to overtime and Josh Allen throws what feels like a 90-yard pass. It wasn't quite that
Which he
much. It was
can
about
do.
a he can throw that. It was but they didn't need that many yards and he chucked it like 40 to 60 yards downfield to his fullback. No offense to fullbacks, but
Shout out to fullbacks, but you don't really have hops.
that's
Sorry.
not really like the strong suit of a fullback normally. And it just surprised me. I mean, if he caught it, it would have been great, but it just seems to me like he would just make some decisions that didn't make much sense. And also, you have to wonder the Bills probably still feel like they should have won that game in Houston. They were up 16 against Houston, and then in overtime, they had Deshaun sacked, and
Deshaun.
he just made an incredible play to get out of there. You got to think the Bills were definitely I think they still feel that loss and they want to make up for that. And they went out and got some bigger names and they've improved, and you can see that they're a legit team. And I think, it's not going to be a cakewalk in the AFC for the Steelers and Chiefs. I think you've got some teams that could definitely pull out some upset wins. And so, yeah, but I agree. It was an impressive win. It was really strange by the Seahawks to see them struggle the way that they did, but also, it happens. Every good team has games like this, so
I
let's
mean,
see what
shout out to the
happens.
Bills for going out and picking up Diggs.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the biggest free agent pickup impact players of this year. I think he's really shown out on the Bills, and I think he's a big reason as to why their offense is playing the way that they are. So shout out to him. Shout out to their front office for recognizing that they had the ability to get him out of there, and they stole him away from the Vikings, and you can see that the Vikings miss him. Even though he was arguably a problem player, you can see that the Vikings really miss his presence. Thielen is good, but he just gets double teamed every play. So you miss that other guy who has the capacity to go up and make big plays, and they don't have that anymore. Shout out to Dalvin Cook though for carrying every game because he's the man.
What a guy.
What a guy.
I know you also covered Joe Flacco and playing for the Jets and going
Oh
against the
man,
Patriots. So what'd you think about that game?
Jets making me look real stupid after I stomped all over them last week on episode 1. Dang. To be fair though, it wasn't Sam Darnold. It was Joe Flacco. So my points on Sam Darnold, they still stand. But I mean, Joe Flacco, he was 18 and 25 for 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That's like Joe Flacco numbers of old. Back when Joe Flacco was the quarterback for the Ravens, the pre Lamar Jackson days, he looked good. And he made a Jets offense look good. He made Jamison Crowder and other players on that team look good. Not that they're not good, but I mean, like I said, they're the Jets. I mean, he really fought to get them the win, and just came up short. He ultimately Joe Flacco'd, and he threw an interception near the end of the game, and that was really one of the primary reasons that they lost. But I mean, he had an impressive game. I was really impressed, and I mean, the Patriots, dang, you guys look bad. As a Colts fan, that warms my heart. They just look bad, and I just feel bad for Cam because Cam, he deserves so much better, and he has the capacity to play so much better than he did. And ultimately, he did drive them down the field, and he did get his victory. So I'm sure that was a nice redeeming moment for him. But so far this season, I don't know what's happened to the Cam Newton of old, but this is not the same guy. Would not surprise me if Joe Flacco took over the starting job from Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold gets traded to some quarterback needy team, maybe the Bears. I don't know. Maybe he has a career resurgency with another team and, gets good. But the Jets still have fight, even considering how much they still suck and even considering that Adam Gase is their coach. But they have fight. They have some good players on their team. Sometimes it's just hard to notice them because they're the Jets. But I mean, they are an NFL team for a reason, and they can put up a fight against anyone, no matter their roster, no matter their coaching, no matter their play calling, they can put up a fight. So would not surprise me if Joe Flacco took over the starting job. It really wouldn't.
Yeah,
We'll
I could
see.
see that. I think Jets fans, if you actually look on Twitter when they were winning the game, you could see Jets fans. It was like Fox Sports NFL posted a picture of Jets fans saying, "No, what are you doing? Stop!" Because
This does not surprise me.
they want to tank for Trevor. I think just to hit on a point that you were talking about Cam, I actually personally think he played a good game. I think mainly it was their defense that wasn't stopping the Jets. But because if you look at his stats here, Cam Newton was 27 of 35, 274 yards passing. He ran for 16 yards.
Had a
He
rushing
rushed for 2.
touchdown.
He had 2 rushing touchdowns, I believe.
Not a passing one, though.
He did
Like I
not.
said, not disputing the fact that Cam Newton had a good game. He did. I'm just disputing the fact that it was against the Jets and the Patriots
Yeah.
almost lost. And
Yeah.
I'm disputing the fact that he does not look the same. as he did with the Panthers. There were 2 plays where he had room to run out of the pocket and get a first down, and he fell down. Cam
Hmm.
Newton fell down. No one touched him. He just fell over.
Hmm.
Maybe there's something still wrong. I don't know. But when he fell over, I was like, what is going on with Cam Newton? Cam Newton of the Panthers would have taken that for 30 yards, hurdled someone, and then trucked someone into oblivion. But the Cam Newton of the Patriots, he just fell over. I was like, man, why'd you fall over?
Yeah, I can definitely you don't see quite the runs you used to see from Cam Newton. And I definitely agree with that. But we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes. I'm interested to see what happens with New England. Maybe this is all part of Bill Belichick's plan to get some top
Oh, I hope
recruit.
not.
I also got to give shout out to Jacoby Myers for 12 receptions,
True.
169 yards. Wow, like
He and Cam
impressive.
Newton have a repertoire now.
Yeah, I mean,
They got some chemistry. Might take over
impressive.
as wide receiver 1. Who knows?
Who knows? Um, yeah, but as far as the next game we wanted to talk about, man,
Oh, this one's
this,
yours. You're going to have
oh
fun with this
man,
one.
okay, yeah. So we want to talk about the big elephant of the weekend in the NFL, which I feel ridiculous for saying. Chelsea, I felt like last week we said all these games, we were like, oh, this isn't going to be a good game, like Steelers and Dallas, and then it
Oh, yeah,
ended up
but
being
what was
like
it? A
it
good
was
game.
it was exactly that. It was like 24-19
Shout
with
out
the
to Garrett Gilbert.
yeah. But this game, okay, we really thought, and I think everyone thought this was going to be a huge Sunday night matchup. Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, Saints versus Bucks in Tampa Bay. I thought that,
Raining, by the way.
yeah,
Rain the whole game.
I thought
Very Tampa Bay.
Tampa was
Very
going
hurricane.
to, I thought Tampa was going to even up the series 1-1. I thought they had started clicking. I thought they were getting things going. But if you look at just this game, I was watching this, and just from the beginning, it just didn't look good. Now the Tampa Bay defense was able to get a goal line fumble um, when the Saints were only up 7-0, and I thought, okay, maybe we can see something going here. But if you look at Tom Brady's stats, I mean, it wasn't a good game. If you watched the game, you saw he wasn't throwing the ball well. He was 22 of 38 passing for 209 yards and 3 interceptions, no
3
touchdowns.
interceptions and
But
no touchdowns from Tom Brady. As a Colts fan, my heart has been warmed.
I think what's shocking to me even more than that is this is something I don't feel like people are really talking about. The Buccaneers ran the ball 4 times the entire
Not 1,
game.
not 2, not 3, 4.
And the reason I find that shocking, a lot of people are going to say, well, they were down. Chris, they were down big the entire game. Like, what do you expect? They were down early. They were down like early in the second quarter. And I know a lot of people say you don't want to run the ball at that point because you time is against you, but the game is so early at that point. You went out and got Leonard Fournette and you have Ronald Jones. And how is it you're only running the ball 4 times in an entire game? They technically had 5 rushes with Blaine Gabbert. He got hit for -1. I'm not really counting that one, but it just amazes me. How is Bruce Arians only calling 4 running plays? Now, it may not be him. It may be the offensive coordinator. It may be just all
Even
these different
still.
things. But I just, in my opinion, you cannot just run the ball 4 times when it was raining too. I understand that affects both teams, and it wasn't pouring rain. It wasn't awful.
It was like misting the whole game.
But it just amazes me. I think the Bucks. I think this is a great win by the Saints. I think there are some times, as somebody who's played in high school sports, there are times where you may be the better team or you may be a good team, but sometimes you're just going to lay an egg. I've been there. It's not really fun.
As a high school golfer, I have also been there, believe it or not. It is possible for golf teams to lay eggs.
It's just like, you may not even be bad, but sometimes you just have a terrible night. And I think to an extent that's what happened here, but also the Saints, they came ready. There's also times where one team just is on and ready, and the Saints came ready to play. They were motivated. I think something me and my dad were talking about is my dad was saying that he feels like the Saints are really fired up to play Tampa because they're like, this is our division, not yours. And
Yep.
I think, I mean, it showed. They were ready on defense. They were ready on offense. Drew Brees had 4 touchdowns. The defense was just a monster. They only gave up 3 points the whole game. That's impressive.
Yeah,
But
I
I think
mean, going back to your note about the running game, I mean, they have arguably the best running back core in the NFL with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, and they rushed it 4 times. Any other team in the NFL would be ecstatic to have those running backs on their team.
mhm.
I don't know who is play calling for the Bucks. I don't know if it's Arians. I don't know if it's their offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's an assistant. But whoever play called that game, I'm sure got roasted on Tuesday.
Yeah. And I think from what I'm seeing, I saw several deep balls that Tom Brady is throwing, and he wasn't throwing them accurately. I understand you want to go deep, and maybe also the defensive line for the Saints were just getting to you. But if the defensive line is getting to you, you have to adapt. You have to start making shorter plays or running the ball. You have to do different things. And I just think the problem was that they were trying to throw deep. And Brady was missing his deep throws. And if he's missing, I understand there's the idea like, he's one of the greatest of all time. And I think he still can throw the deep ball. But if it's just not working that
He's
night,
no Patrick Mahomes now, though.
no. And he never was. He's like I said, he's one of the greatest to ever do it, but he's not exceptional at throwing the deep ball as he was even in the prime of his career. But I think he was getting a lot of pressure on, like the defensive line was just pressuring him
They have a good
constantly.
D line over
Uh,
it. New Orleans and Tampa Bay is known for not having the best O line, and they tried to go out and fix it in the draft and stuff. And it's helped, but it's not a top 5 line. You
mhm.
noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it showed that night. I mean, I know this is kind of a freak interception, but the play where the defensive lineman batted it and then
Mm-hmm.
one of the others caught it, I mean, that was due to pressure from the defensive line. Now, I know that can just happen sometimes, but if you just look overall, like it was just a rough night on everywhere for the Bucks. And I really think like they need to get their stuff together because now they really got to win these the rest of their games. Maybe not every single one, but now that the Saints have won both the games against Tampa, their best competition in the division, at this point, as long as the Saints keep winning their games, like I honestly think that they'll win the division out. I know that sounds like, well, duh to some people, but I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I don't think I think it's still a competitive division, but I think by the Saints beating Tampa Bay twice now, that's a huge misstep for Tampa and a huge step for New Orleans. So,
I agree completely. I think Tampa really needs to get their head screwed on straight if they want to make a run in the playoffs. Because, I mean, New Orleans, Seattle, teams like that, those teams, they're good. They have good defenses, they have even better offenses, and they have strong, rush defenders. Like they have strong passing defense. So we're going to see. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know what happened. I mean, Tom Brady has one of the best receiving cores in the NFL, and they were all healthy, including Antonio Brown, who played in
mhm.
this game. They were all healthy, all of them. Him, Godwin, and Mike Evans all played in this game. And Gronk played. All of them. And they were still terrible. There must be a team chemistry issue or something because I really don't know how to explain what happened. I mean, I get that New Orleans is good. New Orleans is very good. But for Tampa Bay to be that bad, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but we'll have to see next week and as the week goes on.
For
But
sure.
so let's go through some of the best games of the week that we have recapped here, or some of the interesting ones. So first, I'd like to talk about the Lions and Vikings a little bit. I don't have a ton to say on this game, but other than Dalvin Cook, he went off again, and
Again.
I think it's incredible to see that he's doing what he's doing. The Vikings have now won 2 in a row, and you got to give props to him. I think with Dalvin Cook, it's obvious to see that the Vikings are a much better team than they are without him, and you know I I don't know if he's necessarily carrying them, but he's definitely taking a huge load on the offense. And right now it's paying off for them. So we'll just have to see. I mean, they beat Green Bay, which I think is a impressive win by them. And the Lions, they're not the Lions, while I don't think they're very good, I don't think they're very bad either. I think
They're
they're
mediocre.
mediocre. Yeah, that's how I feel about them. So, yeah, I think overall, good win by the Vikings. Hopefully, we'll see what happens if they can keep it up. And yeah, and we'll see how their season goes and their off season. See if they can rebuild, those playoff teams that they had not too long ago.
Yeah, and the game that I was going to take a quick look at is Dolphins and Cardinals. This is a shootout. Two of the best, arguably best young quarterbacks in the league. Tua playing in his second ever game. I believe it's his second. Last week was his first, but playing in his second ever game at the Cardinals against Kyler Murray, who, hey, has proven to be pretty good. I mean, Tua, he was spectacular. I mean, he was 20 of 28 for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles, and he had 7 carries for 35 yards. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Tua, he had a good game. It was a shootout, wasn't really much defense in this game, a lot of offense. Kyler, he played well too, but ultimately it came down to Tua and the offense being able to post up more points than Kyler and his offense, and they did. I think Tua's legit. I'm still torn about the fact that they benched Fitzgerald when he was playing as well as he was for them. I don't think that he deserved that. But I mean, Tua's good. He's legit. He's what the Dolphins thought that they were. There was a lot of questions about him when he got drafted, about his health, his reliability, things like that. But I mean, he played well. He played well enough to beat a playoff caliber team in the NFC, and I think he deserves credit for that. So shout out to Tua for doing his thing and getting his second ever victory against a playoff caliber team, because last week he played the Rams. So that's 2 playoff caliber teams in the NFC that Tua and the Dolphins have taken down. The Dolphins aren't pushovers anymore. Tua's legit. He could carry them to the playoffs as a second or third last wild card team. Do I think they'll make a run in the playoffs? No. But could they make the playoffs? Yeah. I mean, I think this division is between the Bills and the Dolphins, and I think the Dolphins could sneak in as one of the last teams in the AFC. So we'll see. It's so fun to see all these young quarterbacks, Herbert, Burrow, and Tua, all of them doing amazingly for each of their teams. It's really cool to see all of them succeeding. And it's really cool to see Tua succeeding even when he didn't get the start for in his first game. Didn't really get to start till about halfway through the season. And now he's proving why he should have started the whole season. So shout out to him for living up to expectations and for doing what he does.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm sorry about this, but you meant to say Fitzpatrick, right, earlier when you were talking about.
Okay. My bad.
That's okay. No worries. I was like, wait, Cardinals benched Fitzgerald. I was confused for a second, but it's all
Fitzpatrick.
good.
My bad. Got my names mixed up.
No worries. It's all good. It fits something, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is an impressive win by Tua, and I think it was a good game overall. 2 young quarterbacks who knows, potentially futures and quarterbacks, future stars in the NFL. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I could see these 2 guys being good in the future and potential Pro Bowl quarterbacks. We'll see what happens as they get older in the NFL, learn more about their offenses and other teams' defenses. And it'll be a really interesting thing to see. And I mean, it's a great sign for Tua coming off an injury at Alabama last year to be able to come into the middle of the season and perform. He played well. And I think the Dolphins are a legit squad. I think they're a potential playoff team, and who knows what the future will have for them. So yeah. Next, we have our secret guest contributor segment.
Everyone's favorite part of the episode.
Oh man, the hot takes on here.
The hot takes are spicy this week.
Okay, well, what do we got, Chelsea?
All right, everyone. Here we go. Today's guest contributor hot take is Josh Allen is not a top 10 quarterback. Thoughts, Chris?
Okay, if we're referring to his years past, like his whole career, I agree. He's not quite there. But this year, no way. It seems to me that he's a top 10 quarterback. He's literally turned that Bills offense into a scoring machine. And I mean, he's played great this year. He's a potential MVP candidate. So that's kind of what I think about that.
I will say our special guest contributor provided his backing for why he thinks this way. He also provided his number 8 and number 9 quarterbacks, and we got all their stats. So I will read off their stats. Josh Allen's stats this year: 2,587 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions with a 79.3 QBR. Ranked as number 10 in our special guest contributors list. Number 9, he has Drew Brees. 2,376 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 picks, 72.6 QBR. And number 8, he has Deshaun Watson. 2,376 yards, which is the exact amount of passing yards as Drew Brees. Fun fact. 17 touchdowns, 5 picks, 72.6 QBR. The exact same stats as Drew Brees.
Crazy.
Exactly. Right down to the QBR percentage. And then his ranking metrics. He's ranking based upon talent right now. He's not ranking based on how Josh Allen has played throughout the entirety of his NFL career. He's ranking right now. His metrics include, he really went in depth. He cares about these hot takes, guys. Recent performance based on the last 1 to 2 years. Eye test. Current stats, mainly touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage, rating, and running stats, if applicable, which for Josh Allen, it is applicable. Not for Drew Brees, but for Deshaun Watson, it's applicable. And then, of course, a hint of talent projection. Will they decline? Will they bounce back? Will they be better than expected? Etc. So we got Josh Allen at 10, Drew Brees at 9, and Deshaun Watson at 8. And looking at the stats, Josh Allen is better than both Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson. Even though Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees have the same stats. I got them from ESPN, the exact same. That's wild. Anyways, what do you think, Chris?
That is wild. I mean, I don't think Josh Allen yet is an elite quarterback. I think he is around the top 10. I think especially this year, as far as though his whole career, I will agree that I think he has struggled in decision making, as we talked about earlier in our segment about the Bills. I think just if you look at him, I mean, he's the kind of guy that when you're playing Madden, you'd totally make him like a giant throwing power. Like his arm is
super strong arm.
Super strong arm. He's a big guy. Like he's a giant among quarterbacks. I think he's what, like 6'4" or something like that.
He's a large person.
He's a big man, and I mean, and he's got legs.
Big man.
And so I think he's definitely got all the physical attributes to be a great quarterback. But as of right now, I think his accuracy is kind of where I have trouble with putting him as elite right now. I know there are people saying that he should be MVP this year. Maybe so. I mean, their team is doing really well. They just dropped 44 on the Seahawks, which granted their defense isn't the best, but I think overall they've been playing well against.
But they're still the Seahawks, and you still have to outduel Russell. So
and
that's impressive in of itself.
And so that is crazy that Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson have like the exact same stats.
At least for yards, touchdowns, picks, and QBR. Yeah. I haven't looked at completion percentage or rushing yards or anything. Yeah. But for those 4 things to have the exact same, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
So do you agree with this hot take, Chris, or do you disagree?
If we're talking about this year, I wouldn't agree with it. But since we're talking about his entire career, I think I agree with it.
I think, the thing that I struggle with, and I think that a lot of people struggle with regarding this, is that you look at Drew Brees and you look at Deshaun Watson. the eye test, the names, the careers, the things they've already done. You see those things and you're like, well, Josh Allen obviously is not better than Drew Brees, obviously.
Yeah.
And you say that Josh Allen is not better than Deshaun Watson. When people say that, they think of Drew Brees and Deshaun Watson in their entirety, not just via this season.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are just going to look at stats, which that's the way I'm looking at it. Our contributor, I read off its metrics. It's not just performance and stats. It's also the eye test and, talent projection. But I think if you're just going to look at stats, Josh Allen has better stats than both of those guys. He has 2 more touchdowns, same amount of picks and more passing yards, and a higher QBR. So, I mean, if you're just going to talk about stats up to this point, if that's the only thing you're going to use, I think that you could put Josh Allen at 8, but talent-wise, completely as a quarterback, looking at his whole year, I still don't think he's there yet. When I think of elite quarterbacks, I don't think of Josh Allen. When I think of really good quarterbacks, I think of Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of elite, I think of the Tom Brady's and the Drew Brees and the Aaron Rodgers, the Deshaun Watsons, the Russell Wilsons, those kind of guys. I don't think of Josh Allen, but I don't think that Josh Allen is very far away from being considered an elite quarterback if he keeps playing the way that he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
don't think it'll be this year.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe this year is the big step that he's taking and he'll continue to get better as his career goes on. I don't think to be a Hall of Fame or to be elite quarterback, you have to automatically be great your first, second year. I do believe in
I
progress
agree.
and getting better. So, I mean, I would love to see Josh Allen continue to grow in that and continue to get better as a quarterback. So we'll just have to see what happens in his career. But as of right now, I do agree with this take.
I agree with this take too, if you're going to base it off of all of his stats of the entirety of the year, not just the ones I listed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move into our final segment here, our Week 10 game picks.
Game picks.
Ooh. So just as a
Lead
little
us
bit of a
off.
record,
Oh,
I
yes, our
decided
record.
to, yeah, so I decided
People will
to
be
keep score.
invested.
I decided to keep score for us. And so last week, Chelsea got 11 picks right. I got 8.
Whoop, whoop.
And so she's up 11-8 on the year right now for
Let's
us.
go. 1-1. Or 1-0, not 1-1. Let's go.
So yeah, let's see what happens today. So our first game here, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Who you got, Chelsea?
First of all, side note, 2 televised games for the Colts in a row nationally. My heart is so happy. Colts suffered a tough loss last week against the Baltimore Ravens, played way under what they were capable of. Playing at the Titans this week, I think it'll be tough, but I think that the defense is going to come out with a vengeance. I'm calling Darius Leonard getting a pick. I have the Colts in a revenge game after their loss. They're going to be mad. As they like to say on Twitter, they're going to have the juice.
Okay. I'm going with Tennessee. I think overall they're a really good team. And I mean, I could definitely potentially see the Colts winning this game. I don't think it'll be easy, but I picked the Titans for this game.
All right, what's next?
We have the Texans playing the Browns at the Browns. So I've got Houston on this one. I'm picking the upset.
Oof, upset.
So I think Houston, I think Deshaun, a lot of times these games can be won by the team with a better quarterback. Maybe not all the time. I do believe you have to have a good team around you, but I do think the Texans are a lot better since they've fired Bill O'Brien. So maybe that's not saying that much considering how bad they were. But
he was bad.
no, I think the Browns are a good team, but Texans just won last game. So maybe I think they can continue to keep it rolling this week. So,
all right, I am going with the Browns this week. Deshaun Watson, he will probably somehow manage to get at least 2 touchdowns, even with his terrible offense. I will say I'm pretty sure that David Johnson is hurt. So if David Johnson doesn't play in this game, I think that that's going to be a contributing factor. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns. I think that the Texans are very beatable. Their defense is very bad. Their offense is not as bad, but still bad. They have Deshaun, so it'll be a competitive game. But I have the Browns pulling it out at home against a Bill O'Brien-less Texans team.
Okay. Our next games we got here. The next game here is Washington at Detroit. So I picked the Lions for this one. I think Washington, they just lost Kyle Allen, who wasn't even playing bad for them.
To a gruesome ankle injury. Poor guy.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers to that man and his family. I think when he was in Carolina, people unfairly ripped him. I mean, I didn't think he was great, but he was definitely backup worthy. And I think he was, he was solid at what he did. And so I think just overall, though, the Lions, I think they're, like we said earlier, they're a mediocre team, and I think they'll beat out Washington in this one. So
I got the Lions too. I think that Matt Stafford will have a good game against a decimated Washington secondary. And I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback for them this week. Maybe it'll be Alex Smith. Maybe it'll be Dwayne Haskins. I don't know. But if it will be Alex Smith, major shout out to Alex Smith for still playing after his terrible Joe Montana-esque injury that he suffered a while ago. So I got the Lions. I think that Matt Stafford will have a good game. And I think that Hawkinson is going to get a touchdown.
okay. Oh, Colin, TD predictions. I like it.
Next game, we got the Bucks at the Panthers. Who you got, Chris?
I'm going with the upset pick. I'm picking the Panthers to win it.
Oh, so this is a completely unbiased upset pick, huh?
Here's the thing. I don't think I'm unbiased, but it's about time that the Panthers win a close game, because they've played literally everyone tough and close, and I'm just like, they have to win one of these fourth quarter drives. And so I think the game will at least be semi-close, maybe within 1 to 2 touchdowns. I think the most it would go is 2 touchdowns, to be honest. I potentially could see a blowout, but also the Bucks have just struggled recently, and I think the Panthers are better than the Giants, and the Bucks barely pulled that one out. And I mean, the Saints creamed them and embarrassed them. Now, in some ways, that could mean that they're going to be very motivated for this game, but I think the Panthers are also pretty motivated, and that they want to win one of these games that they're coming so close to winning. McCaffrey is doubtful right now, or I know you said he's probably out, according to the NFL. And so I think that'll be a blow, but I do think the passing offense, and along with Mike Davis, is decent enough to win. They have one of their backups coming back, Reggie Bonifon, who to a lot of people is a no-name, but to Panthers fans, they've seen what Bonifon can do. And so who knows? I'm picking the upset. I think this will be an interesting game. So
mad respect. Me personally, I'm going with the Bucks. No disrespect to the Panthers, like McCaffrey, like Bridgewater, but I think Tom Brady's going to be very angry, and I think he's going to throw like 4 touchdowns angrily. I think he's going to be angry the whole game. That is all I have to say about that.
Is he going to do the little meme thing that he had where he's going to hold up 4 to the camera
He's going to be like, 4 touchdowns. Take that, haters. But yeah, as much as I want the Panthers to win this game, I just think Tom Brady's going to be too angry.
Can you imagine the media circus that will be if the Panthers win this game, and how?
Oh my gosh. What if the fans start calling for Tom Brady to be benched? Rip.
Oh my
Fire
goodness.
Bruce Arians. What? No. Oh, what?
Oh man. What I would honestly love to see the Panthers win, just to see the media firestorm that would come along.
I agree. That would be wild.
All right. So the next game we have here are the Eagles at Giants. Who do you have, Chelsea?
I have the Eagles. We all know the Giants are bad. I think it's a pretty sure bet now that Daniel Jones is probably a bust. Evan Ingram, also probably a bust. The Eagles are mediocre, just like the Giants, the Cowboys, and Washington. They're all mediocre, yet somehow one of them will make the playoffs. Thanks, NFL. But yeah, I got the Eagles. I think that Carson Wentz will have a good game and that the defense will get a turnover. So I got the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Same here. I've got the Eagles. I think they're a better team than the Giants. They've already beaten the Giants once. Now it was close. And the Giants, from what I understand, were leading, but that was an ugly football game.
It's true.
And I expect it to probably be ugly again. But we'll see. I think the Eagles are the better team though, so I'm picking them. Next we have the Jags at Packers. So I got the Packers at this one. I'd say that's a fairly easy guess. I mean, I know anything can happen in football, and I don't want to really be the analyst that ends up like the Tampa Bay versus Saints ones where they
On
all
the
picked.
Cold Takes Instagram.
Oh my goodness, where they all picked Tampa, and you see all and then the Saints just.
Mm-hmm,
I can't believe nobody picked the Saints. That's hard for me to imagine. Like,
yeah,
but
I don't know.
anyways,
People get too high on Tom Brady.
That's not what we're talking about, though. I think the Packers win this one. I think Aaron Rodgers has another good game like he did last Thursday night. So, yeah, that's what I got.
I got the Packers too. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a good game. The Jags will Jags. I think that Minshew will be back this week, though. So that's a good thing for the Jags. But would not be upset if the Jags did win, though, because that'd mean they'd be farther from Trevor Lawrence. Because I already have to deal with Deshaun Watson in my conference, in my division. I do not want to have to deal with another stellar Clemson quarterback. So if he could go to the Jets, that would be great.
Yeah, just make him not go to your division,
I already have to deal with Deshaun.
And I mean, yeah, that would be a loaded quarterback division. You'd have you'd have Ryan Tannehill, you'd have Deshaun
who has
Watson,
proven to not be a system player.
Yeah.
I think that he is legit now, which is unfortunate for Colts fans because we all thought that he was a fluke. But shout out to Ryan Tannehill for being good.
Yeah, he's played well. So, and then if they got Trevor in that division, I'd be like, man, that's a pretty
watch the Colts division. Never win a game again. No, just kidding.
All right. So the next game we have are the Bills at Cardinals. I'm picking the Bills for this one. I think their team, they just came off a good win, and I know the Cardinals beat the Seahawks. I could see the Cardinals pulling this game out. They did just lose to the Dolphins, but I still think the Cardinals are a good team. I think they're loaded on offense, and I think they have some decent pieces on defense. And
Isaiah Simmons
and Budda Baker. And I think, just overall, the Cardinals could put a game up, but I think that the Bills will take this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think the Bills will win, but I think that this will be a high-scoring, competitive game. I think it'll be a good game to analyze for Josh Allen and whether or not he's legit or not, because the Cardinals defense, they have some good pieces. They're not a top 10 defense, but, they're solid. But I got the Bills. I think that Josh Allen's going to keep rolling. I don't think that he'll have as good of a game that he had this past week, but I do think that he'll play well enough to win. And yeah, I got the Bills. I think he'll throw a couple touchdowns, probably an interception too, but yeah, I think the Bills will win. They're rolling. So I think the Cardinals just got an unfortunate time to play the Bills. If they had played them at the beginning of the season, they probably would have played them then. But yeah, I'm going with Buffalo.
All right. Next game we got here, we got the Chargers at Dolphins.
A rookie quarterback matchup. Ooh la la.
I mean, that could be a good one. Herbert's playing well. Tua's playing well. I think this will be a fun game to watch. So I'm going with the Dolphins on this one, though. I think they're overall a better team. The Chargers have proven that they can play with anybody. They just can't actually finish the game.
I'm going with the Dolphins, too. I think Tua's on a roll. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a rookie quarterback duel, which is always fun for all of the players and the fans and the analysts and the podcasters. Shout out to podcasts for discussing. So I think that'll probably be a game we'll cover next week just because of the quarterback matchup. But yeah, I think Tua keeps doing Tua things, and I think Herbert played well, but I just don't think that Herbert's defense is good enough to stop Tua. So I'm going with the Dolphins.
All right. Well, I just kind of realized as I'm looking through this, wow, like we picked a lot of the same teams, but hey, we're picking who we think we win. We don't discuss this beforehand. No,
we don't.
We just pick.
We pick cold turkey.
That's how we do it here. We don't just sit around and be like, okay, let's pick all these safe bets or just try to do controversial picks. Like I
We don't
genuinely
think long
just
and hard about these things. We just go with the flow.
exactly. We're picking these things. I mean, I am trying to use deductive reasoning. We both are, but and sometimes that leads us both to the same place. So for anyone who thinks we're just picking the same teams over and over, we're not. We don't discuss that. We just pick
We
and then we
just
talk
do
about
it.
it. So next we have Broncos at Raiders. I'm taking the Raiders. I think that they're not a bad team. I don't think they're great. I think they're a decent team. They have a decent offense. But I think that overall, I think that they're better than the Broncos. So
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders too. Sorry, Drew Lock. Sorry, Drew Lock lovers. I'm going with Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs and Henry Ruggs. I think that the offense is going to have a good day and that they will get the win at home.
mm-hmm. All right. Well, we got Seahawks at Rams. This could be a great game.
This is a showcase of NFC powerhouses.
Yeah. I think this could be a really interesting game, and we'll have to see what happens with it. But I'm going with the Seahawks. I know it's in LA, but I don't really think they have fans, so I don't know if that's really that big a deal. But I think overall, the Seahawks, I think they're going to bounce back. I think DK Metcalf is going to have another great game, as he's had almost every week this year, except against the Cardinals, but that was one game. And even then, people were still talking about him because of the way he ran down Buda Baker. So
one of the most epic moments of this season thus far.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy, but I think, yeah, Russell Wilson's going to play well. DK Metcalf's going to have like at least one touchdown. And I think he's going to make some big plays. And honestly, or I have learned with that Seahawks offense, anybody can make plays. It's kind of interesting. It's
literally
interesting to see.
Anyone.
Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, or whoever. Like I think David Moore had a good game last
DJ
week.
Dallas, their backup running back. You never know.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm going with the Seahawks.
I'm going with the Seahawks too in this matchup of teams that have been beaten by Buffalo. I think that Russell Wilson is going to be angry in the nicest way possible. And I think that Aaron Donald will Aaron Donald and that he will have a good game. But I think that the Seahawks offense is going to be too much for the Rams defense. So I'm going with the Seahawks at the Rams in LA.
All right. You know what? I think our next game is interesting because I made a pick, but you know what? I think I want to change it.
Oh my gosh.
We have the Bengals at Steelers. I want to go with the Bengals.
Well. Oh my goodness gracious. This might be a hotter take than our hot take this week.
I have a legitimate reason for this. Ben Roethlisberger is out due to COVID as of right now.
That is true. He might not play.
And their offense, even with him, hasn't looked stellar. I'm picking the Bengals. I don't know if they'll win this, but I think that Joe Burrow could potentially lead, a huge upset in this game.
Against the last undefeated team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I think, though, that Steelers defense is going to be tough. But I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one. What do you got, Chelsea?
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know if I can say. I'm just so shocked. I mean, to be fair, I had forgotten that Ben Roethlisberger had been put on the COVID list. I can't exactly remember what the rules and regulations of the NFL are to get off of it. I think you need 2 negative tests before game day. So we will see. If Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play, I think this is a winnable game for the Bengals. I think that Joe Burrow could have his first big win of his NFL career. But if Ben Roethlisberger plays, I think that the Steelers are just too good. I'm going with the Steelers with the presumption that Ben Roethlisberger played. Also, shout out to Vance McDonald. So sorry you got COVID, dude. We'll be praying for you.
Dude, rip the Big Mac, man.
He loves Vance McDonald. I've had to listen for years about how much Chris loves Vance McDonald.
I think it's mainly like it was the name that attracted me, and then it was the stiff arm against Tampa Bay that just
oh my gosh, that was pretty epic.
The years ago when he pulled that huge stiff arm on the Tampa Bay defensive player, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the guy. And I legitimately think he's a solid NFL player. He's been with the Steelers for a while, and yeah, hopefully, all of them are able to recover from the COVID list and all that stuff. So,
For sure.
all right, next game we got 49ers at Saints. I'm picking the Saints. They just had a huge win. 49ers had a
Or
pretty
injured.
bad loss. Yeah.
Understatement.
Yeah, they're pretty hurt, and I think next year for the 49ers will be their comeback year, but as when they get healthy. As of right now though, I think they're not a terrible team, but I think they're very injury bugged right now, and so I'm picking the Saints for this one.
I'm going with the Saints too. Like Chris said, just got off a huge win at Tampa Bay against Tom Brady. I'm pretty sure they're going to be playing Nick Mullins this week. No disrespect to Nick Mullins. You are a good quarterback. You are a good backup. But I think that Drew Brees is going to play better than you, Nick. So sorry. If you listen to this podcast, don't hate me forever. But yeah, I'm going with the Saints. I mean, 49ers are the most injury ripped team this year. I mean, they literally lost half their defense and half their offense to not only COVID, mostly to actual injuries. So that's wild, first of all. Poor 49ers. But yeah, I'm going with the Saints. I think Drew Brees has another big game. I think their defense plays well. But I do think that Nick Mullins will get a couple of touchdowns because, like I said, he is not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Saints, they're just going to keep on winning. They kind of do this thing. I'm interested to see how they'll end the Saints will end the season, because I've noticed the Saints in the past have these really strong middle of the season runs, and by the end they tend to not be as good. So let's see what happens with them as the season goes on. But for this week, I'm picking the Saints. The next game we have is the Ravens and Patriots. I'm going with the upset pick. I'm picking the Patriots.
Oof.
I think the Patriots, even though they just beat the Jets and it was a rough, tough game for them, I think they might ride some momentum on this one. I think they're going to win 2 in a row. And the Ravens, I know they just beat Indianapolis, but even then they struggled in that game. Now, Indianapolis has a very good defense, so no disrespect to them or the Ravens, but I think the Patriots could genuinely win this one. They have to stop the run game for the Ravens. And if they can do that, I think they can pull this out.
Chris Wiles really trying to catch me this week in our match of game picks with these upsets. But this week, I'm going to go with the Ravens. They just came off a tough win against Indianapolis, even though the score doesn't say it was tough. It was a tough win if you actually watched it. But I think that the Ravens are going to be playing a considerably worse team in the Patriots. I think that Cam Newton's going to struggle in this game, and I think that Deshaun is going to run all over New England. Or not Deshaun. I think that Lamar is going to run all over New England. So I'm going with the Ravens this week at New England. I think that they're good enough to beat New England. And whenever I see this matchup, I think of Lamar Jackson versus Tom Brady, and I always think it's going to be a better matchup than it actually is. So praise the Lord that Tom Brady is not on the Patriots any longer. Woohoo! But yeah, I'm going with the Ravens this week.
All right. And our last game, we have the Vikings at the Bears. So who you got, Chelsea?
I'm going with the Vikings. I think Dalvin Cook will not have as big a game this week because the Bears defense is legit. But I do think that he will have a good enough of a game to carry the Vikings. And I think that Cousins will play well enough to win. Wouldn't say that he'd play great, but I think that, they'll play well enough to win. And I think that they'll get a big victory against the Bears and ride a 3-win streak into week 11. So I'm going with the Vikings this week.
All right. Yeah, I could definitely see the Vikings pulling this one out. I'm going to go with the Bears. I still think they can be a good team. I think they really just need to get it together on offense. But if they can somehow find a way to stop Dalvin Cook, and just score enough points. I know that's an obvious thing in football, but it just seems to me the Bears just have such trouble scoring. But I think overall, if they can do that, if their defense can hold Dalvin Cook down and keep the passing game under control against the Vikings, I think the Bears can pull this game out. It might be an ugly one, but I could see them doing it. So I'm picking them.
Yeah, everyone, that is our game picks for the week. Thank you so much for listening this week. Tune back in next Tuesday for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter @_. LC Football _ and on Instagram and YouTube at Launch Codes Football. I'm Chelsea.
And I am Chris.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.